Earlier this week, Zack Snyder on his YouTube live stream, along with Henry Cavill, also known as Superman, released a statement that he will be releasing his Zack Snyder Justice League cut on HBO Max. And how did this come about? So, as we know, for years, the hashtag release a Snyder Cut was pushed by the fans of Zack Snyder and those who just did not like uh, the Justice League incarnation that eventually came out. As we know, tragically, Zack Snyder had a family death that resulted in him stepping away. Then Warner Brothers decided, okay, we're going to bring in Joss Whedon, kind of go through what Zack Snyder had put together. Walter Hamada, who was in charge of Warner's at the time, didn't like Zack Snyder's work. Decided that we need to play catch up with the Marvel universe. We need to do our version of the Avengers. So he gets Joss Whedon, who did the original Avengers, and have him reshoot some of the scenes and add footage that was not there that Zack Snyder had already filmed. The result of that was a horrible movie. It was great to see the characters put together that way, but it just wasn't a very good movie. The box office reflected that. There was a lot of backlash. So eventually you had a lot of turnover. That's when those hashtags started, and people were insistent that that movie get released. Warner Brothers denied that there was an existence of a Snyder Cut. Now there is. So the truth behind that there is and there isn't a Snyder Cut. The principal photography was filmed. It He has more than 4 hours of footage available. It is believed that his original version theatrical release was going to be 3 hours and 30 minutes. So the fact that he has over 4 hours of footage, there's no reshoots to be done, um, but there's plenty of post production, and that's what many people don't realize when they kept saying release a Snyder Cut. Well, it was a movie that was put together an editing cut, but not a theatrical release cut, a final cut, right? And so you need to do a lot of color correction, a lot of AD work, additional dialogue work. You have to bring in the actors for that. Um, and there has to be a lot of production. There has to be the special effects, because supposedly the cut that he had was just a basic cut with no special effects. And so that has to be matched up. That has to be put together. Um, Seriously doubt there will be any reshoots at this point. Um, but the fact that AT&T, who owns Warner Media, who owns HBO, decided that we're creating the HBO Max platform. We need content. Uh, we hear the push for the Snyder Cut for years. Let's give them the Snyder Cut. They decided to invest 20 to 30 million. I personally think, based upon the production things that I mentioned to you, it's going to be a lot more than that. Um, the good news is, for those of you who are Henry Cavill fans, the fact that he was on the live stream with Zack Snyder and essentially made that announcement together probably bodes well for Henry Cavill coming back as Superman at some point. We know that relationship was a little soured at one point. Um, Many believe that Henry Cavill was getting pushed out, or that Henry Cavill didn't like the direction the quote unquote DC universe was going. And I think the big turning point also for Warner Brothers was the release of Joker, because they got away from doing the DC extended universe. In other words, trying to copy the Marvel universe. That just never worked. And so they released the Joker as an experiment. Obviously, director Todd Phillips did a great job with that, but I think it was a way to feature standalone films, and maybe down the line, once they figure out what in what direction they want to take, they can bring everybody back together at some point to do additional Justice League movies. Now, if you know the history behind Justice League, there were supposed to be 3 films that included the Justice League. And so obviously that never happened. Will it ever happen? I don't know. Additionally, what HBO Max will be able to do, which usually HBO does in a lot of their programming, is a lot of the behind the scenes. And so this is an opportunity to do not only a documentary of the making of the movie, you have a lot of behind the scenes that you can create additional content, additional episodes. And so theoretically, you could have hours upon hours of additional material revolving around just this one property in the Justice League. Now, me personally, I would like to see a theatrical release. I think that would be a win-win situation for everybody involved. It'll be good for the theater industry, which is obviously taking a huge hit right now. I think you cut a deal with the theater chains and say, look, we'll do a limited release. I know you don't like limited releases, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to present the Justice League Zack Snyder cut, something similar to like a Fathom event where they do a 2 day release or maybe spread it out for a week or two, and then take it over to HBO Max with the additional contact, a director's cut, a behind the scenes exclusive interviews. Um, and so it's a win-win situation because even though those fans will be able to see it in the theaters, they're going to want to see it again, especially if it's done on a limited release. And then you also get the additional subscribers who are going to subscribe to HBO Max. The benefit they have is that they have the additional content that's not going to be a theatrical release. So I think, and I hope that that's something they would consider doing, is having a limited theatrical release and then putting it onto their streaming service. Similar to that was The Irishman. The Irishman had a very limited release in the theaters and then was put on Netflix. And I think effectively that would bode well, not only for HBO Max, but the movie industry in general. So, good news. Unfortunately, we're going to probably have to wait to 2021. It's very possible that it might be pushed to the beginning of 2021 and maybe not the middle of the year. Let's hope that that would be the case. Um, from what I understand, that Zack Snyder, along with his wife Deborah Snyder, has been assembling their original post-production crew and working on the film. And the fact that we just heard about it earlier this week, obviously, the principals in charge of this whole situation, as well as Zack Snyder, probably knew this way before then, including Henry Cavill. That's why he showed up for the Q&A portion of the streaming live stream. So keep it here. We'll see if there's any additional news. And don't forget to keep it on Zenny62 and like and subscribe. Thank you.